Okay, hello, hello, hello. It's another beautiful day, a beautiful edition of our Fire Chat, show or conversation or whatever we want to put it there. I'm never alone, right? It's um, it's not good for a man to be alone. It's not good for a man to be alone, and we always do this with some very wonderful, interesting, intelligent people. So adding. I'm going to be inviting some to join me in this conversation. Hello, hello. Tolu?
Yeah, I see my reflection. I think my positioning is not.
Yes, it's not.
Hold on. Let me.
Our position is
Oh,
the
yeah.
other way around.
Yes.
Yes,
I
I,
saw my camera.
I can see you
Yeah.
with your wonderful ego.
I want to be like you now. I just changed the color.
Come on. You're a big babes now. Look at your color. My own is just regular black,
We decided to match red and red.
red and
Matching.
red. Yeah, that's what we call levels. But how are you today?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to join this conversation. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, thank you for being here. One of the things I find over and over with these sessions is that sometimes we don't have a whole lot of people joining during the weekend, but consecutively we always have a lot of people joining the conversation and of course asking questions and learning from the richness of our discussion. And I'm trying to add Jimmy into the flow. I'm trying to invite her. Yes, she's here. Yes, so it's good to have you, ladies. Let me do a quick introduction, or better still, I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourself. But on today's edition, we have our wonderful Tolu Habib. Tolu Habib is just a very unique person. I don't know if you've heard the word connector before. Tolu Habib is a connector par excellence, and I mean that. I mean that. I don't know how many people Tolu has connected me to, and of course we've done some wonderful things together. But she's also an HR professional, HR professional, and but not just HR. She's into change. She's into very, very. She's one of the most fluid, nimble person I know. And it's so nice to have you. And of course, so Tolu, you can please introduce yourself, and then we'll go to our wonderful Jumi. Jumi
Okay,
Paek.
you've pretty much said everything. Yeah, my name is Tolu Habib. I'm an HR professional who is also a chain management professional. Friends call me the networking queen because that's one of the things I think I tried in. I believe in the power of networking, and that's why I started a platform called Connect and Try. So it's something I'm really passionate about. So I would say I'm a woman of so many sides. So it's a pleasure to join this conversation. Thank you.
Yes, so good to have you, Tolu. And of course, I have our wonderful Jimmy. Look at her smiles. Jimmy is also another wonderful, special person. She's a graced lady, HR professional. Jimmy, let me not talk. So please introduce yourself, Jimmy. Okay, I think our network is frozen. We can just see her smiling face.
Yeah, I can't see Jumi. Maybe it's
Jimmy, are you there? Yeah. Okay, I'm sure she's going to join. Sure she's going to join back. Um, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm sure she's going to join back. But Tolu, you can see me, yeah? You can hear me.
yes, I can see you.
All right, so, okay, she's back.
My network challenge.
Okay.
Now, you Tolu, that was a beautiful introduction there. Please, I would like to learn from you. I want to understand how to connect people, and I love that you just captured it. Okay, so my name is Ola Fatoki. I always say that I need no introduction on this show, but just those that are joining us for the first time, like Immigrate with Army, nice to see you. My name is Ola Jumoke Fatoki. I'm just a passionate person about people and organizational development. That's what I live, breathe, and that's what just makes me think. That's why I'm here to have a conversation and, help as many people and that these conversations be beneficial too. Thank you.
All right, so good to have you, Tolu. I concur with that. That's what I say mantra or what you just said about yourself. You live and breathe to help people and organizational development grow. Anyway, so let's go into the conversation, and we're talking about mental health. And I think until recently, maybe some 3, 4 years ago, maybe COVID time was when the word mental health became more, prevalent and more, of course, and some of us that come from country like Nigeria, we deal with many things, but we don't target at mental health as such. Until I came to Canada, then COVID happened. I started taking that discourse or that topic very seriously, or started looking at it. And I think it also comes with a level of stigma, right? Some quarters when you say mental health. But in recent times, it's becoming, it's becoming a prominent conversation where people are looking at and taking very seriously. So let's start with you, Tolu. How would you define mental health, or when the concept of mental health comes to mind, what comes to your mind?
So, like you're correct. Culturally, if you say you have mental health issues, it looks like something is mentally wrong with you. Like you, I don't want to use negative words, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, but what comes to my mind is not necessarily just means you're not in the right state of mind. You're not able to function the way you want to. You're stressed. There's maybe anxiety. There's just these stressors that's affecting your daily activities. That's not making you function the way you would normally do. So when you feel that way, then you know there's an issue that needs to be addressed. Not necessarily the person is sick in the head. The person is fine, just stressors.
I like that. Not necessarily the person is sick in the head. That just stresses. Okay, Jimmy, you want to chime in your own perspective?
All right. So I'll just like to take it up from the angle of, like you said, and I'll try address it, two ways that came to mind. I feel like a lot of people think that mental health is a Gen Z, and I beg to differ. It's not a generational thing. It's particular to a particular generation, and a lot of people also tend to think that, like Tolu rightly said, when they hear the word mental health, even though there is a lot of awareness these days, and I'm glad that a conversation like this we are also having it. People tend to think of Yabale in Nigeria. You understand what I mean? And then people live with this condition, and they're unable to, to really share us with people and get help for the fear of being advised or of being told to, go look for help in Yabale. So for me, I just say mental health is like a situation where you're trying to deal with stress, to cope with stress that comes from whatever angle. It could come from work-related situations. It could be from your family. It could be anything that just that makes you you're not, and is beginning to affect your production house, because that's how I like to refer to the mind, because that's where you concoct everything, and when anything is already affects that aspect of you, then you might just need step back, deal with it, and get back into the grind.
I love that. I love that. I think you took it from different angles, and truly, I also like the word Tolu use, stressors, and those stressors can come from relationships. It could be from finances, right? It could be from emotional. It could be from environmental. It could be from work. But the critical thing is, these are things that affect our social well-being, our psychological well-being, and so we need to begin to take it serious. So let's look at it from a work perspective these days, because the workplace itself can foster or can be a major stressor. You understand? So the question is, how can workplace foster an environment where employees feel comfortable in discussing mental health? Want to go for it? Yeah. Yes.
Should I speak?
Yes.
Okay. So I know when we had the initial conversation and you talked about this topic, I said yes, I might not be a mental health expert,
Yeah.
but I have experienced it. So
Yes.
this will be a lot of examples from personal experience.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would say is the culture of an organization.
Mm.
And when we talk about culture, culture is not what we write on our company website. It's actually how how people behave within an organization. So you can have a fancy culture on your website saying we promote, diversity, inclusion, empathy, collaboration. All these are just mere words if employees do not live by those values and beliefs. Is there an environment where bullying and fear thrives? So we have to make sure that things like bullying, things like fear, they don't thrive. You see, and we also, organizations also need to empower leaders. There has to be trainings, there has to be communications to make sure that leaders know that these are our values and this is how we live by these values. There also needs to be checks, like in my organizations, if they do pulse checks and if the leaders scores are low, it could lead to the leader being fired. So leaders know that it's not a power tussle. It's not a dictatorship environment. It's an environment where these are our values. These are the things we believe in. We're enforcing it. We're checking. We're monitoring. So I would say mostly the culture that the organization is promoting. It has to be a culture that promotes psychological safety, empathy, a culture that allows people to make mistakes, a culture that allows you to bring your authentic self to work. That's what I would say.
A culture that allows people to make mistakes, and you're allowed to bring your authentic self. That's interesting. But you see, the way you describe it sounds like you work in an organization that the level of psychological safety is high. But let me flip it this way, just maybe like take us a step back. Do we have organizations in Canada that is not psychologically safe?
So let's open that kind of words. Before I landed here, I know the journey. I've worked in organizations where bullying thrives, and that's why I said it's not what companies put on their website.
Yeah.
It's,
Exactly.
as a HR professional, you go into exit interviews.
Yeah.
You hear things, and organization they need to listen. They need to not just take those exits for the fun of it. They need to act.
Yeah.
Employees need to see that there's an action. Like when leaders know that these things are not mere words, there's an action, and we actually live by these values. My organization called them IDs. We live by our IDs. Then people begin to know that the leadership they mean business. It starts from the top.
Yeah, that's true. I feel you. Jimmy, I mean, we're going to go to the personal things we need to do to strengthen our mental health. But why should organizations take mental health seriously? When you're actually coming to work to do your job, you get paid for your job. Go home, get paid, be happy. Why, in our current day, why should it be taken very seriously by organizations?
If the organization wants to thrive or continue to be a going concern, then they have to pay attention to their employees' mental health.
Okay.
Beyond physically showing up at work. If it's about people physically showing up at work and just marking attendance, then it will be fine. But people need to show up, like Tolu said, with their authentic self, bringing their own self to work. And most times, what is beneath the surface is usually more than what we can see. So and that's where mental health sort of plays. It's not because it is not physical, it's not tangible. A lot of people tend to ignore it, but it begins to manifest, in things that you now begin to touch, and you don't have to wait to get to that point. So
talk about it. So talk about what are some of those signs. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
But what are some of those signs that we see in the workplace that is a precursor or indicator of mental health concerns or issues, and how do we measure it?
Yeah, so when you begin to see a level of disconnect, employees very active, vocal in meetings, begins to try to draw, they are unnecessarily quiet, or for some people it's even different. That's when stress, takes different toll in some people. That's when they begin to even overtalk, begin to make mistakes that are not regular. Or a manager that has been paying attention, for instance, that those things that are happening to this person are not, not typical of them. It's a time to have a conversation, with that person. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person might be having a mental breakdown, but we need to treat issues at home, not wait until they degenerate. So have conversation sometimes, and sometimes that's even just all somebody needs, a listening ear, but just listens to them and understand whatever it is that they might be going through. During COVID, I was still in Nigeria. I was in, and of course maybe the topic is more popular in Canada now, but back in Nigeria, until until COVID struck,
Yeah.
and people started to work from home, and we started receiving of in the office in terms of what people were going through. Some people were having issues in marriages. Work was their escape, and the fact that everybody was now back home, all of those things started to affect them, and was affecting the quality of their deliverables and all of that. And as HR, we have to step into the situation. Of course, I need to say something that if we do get buy-in from management, and I think Tolu also alluded, not get the buy-in from management, to do some of these things, it will just exercise in futility. So what organization at that time was to collaborate with some employee assistance
program. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to come into that because I think it's one of the key things top organizations put in place to help manage. But thank you for some of those insights, especially some of the examples you gave, absenteeism and disconnects. And I'm thinking about my life, really. There was a season that I was going through certain things, and I could see some of those traces, Tolu, for you, what are key precursors of mental health in employees, and how should organization assess this or evaluate this?
I would say some of the causes are like burnouts, when employees are overworked. I remember working in an organization that had like a restaurant, and in HR, somebody was just commenting that this employee, that when they go into the restaurant, they find out the person is having to do multiple things. She's the one serving, she's the one running around. And my question is the leader not observing? So when you're giving your team members unrealistic task, a task meant for 3 people, and people have resigned, and you just leave that one person to keep doing all the work. So, overburdening people, having those, like I would say, unnecessary. Some meetings are unnecessary. Just having meetings and meetings.
Those meetings can lead to mental health. Is that what you're
because
saying?
sometimes they're just so stressed. They're in so many meetings and they don't have time to actually. I was having a conversation with my mentor yesterday, and she was talking, she's a leader, and was saying her team members were complaining that they felt that they were having too many meetings and didn't have time to do the work. And that resulted in them working weekends, stressing, not having time for things that did matter. So these things, and on Sunday, they begin to have anxiety. It's Monday morning. I have these deliverables. I have these things. And you're just so super stressed. You don't have time to have self-care, to prioritize your health, to exercise, to take breaks, and to do all those things that will make you, feel whole and better. Or you just think about, I don't know if you've ever experienced those times where you're dreaming and all you're seeing are those PowerPoints, those slides, those things you want to talk about. You're just super stressed. And when I'm stressed, I know it. I begin to have headaches. I begin to have migraines. Like it's just something that just stresses. I remember, I think it was last Monday, I told my lead, I said, I'm having headache. And the thing he told me was, I think you should close early today and take a break. And I felt so good. I took a break, and on Tuesday when I got back to work, I got back to work way better. Good. But I've worked in an organization where even taking a break or closing at the time I should, which is my regular closing time, is frowned upon. Looks like unnecessary expectations, like it's so unhealthy. So those are the things that can affect our well-being and our mental state of mind.
That's solid. Jimmy, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
I wanted to add one more. Micromanagement is
fantastic. Yes.
Factor gets people into mental health situation. When you do not trust your people to handle what you have committed to them, organizations would bring you on board and say, we want you to do this, and then you get in and they're holding you by from doing exactly what you are being paid to do. And it can really be crazy. And like Tolu said, you're in your house sleeping, but you're just dreaming of work, and it begins to stress you out mentally. And when people cannot focus on the make them feel themselves, that makes them, feel energetic, when they feel like an aspect of them is like work, for it, taking the bulk of their whole time, begin to feel stressed. And you and most cases you cannot even get the best out of such people in that situation until you address that mental or that whatever situation, until you address that. You're not even going to get any form of productivity. They're not going to bring their best selves to work, and such energy usually spread. It begins with one person. And in a team, for when the person is one with the highest energy drives the others, and this is the person that is now experiencing burnout, or that kind of energy begins to spread. So you want to pay attention to that in a team, avoid that from spreading. So back to my main point, micromanagement is a key source of
Beautiful. You mentioned micromanagement and some other point, and I love Tolu's point. I mean, please, if you're just joining or you're listening, please chime in, ask questions, share your contribution. I mean, this is a conversation, and I see that the academy, our wonderful Kiki, she says, I developed anxiety attacks working with a micromanager, and we've seen. I mean, thanks for sharing that. We see that as a reality. You develop anxiety attacks and your heart is God. I'm seeing this woman tomorrow. I'm seeing this man tomorrow. Somebody said that culture is how your employees feel on Monday morning.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
very
So inversely, directly or indirectly, when your employee feel that way, it means there's no psychological safety. And when there's no psychological safety, it means their mental health is being negatively impacted. So let me pose this question to you. How can leaders promote a culture of psychological safety where employees will feel supported and valued? I want us to list out key strategies that leaders can use to promote it. Then we'll now go to the personal dimension, because I think it's also a two-way street, right? But let's talk about how can leaders, what are the clear steps leaders can use to promote, especially from an HR perspective, we that are HR professionals.
Like I said, it starts from the top. Definitely, all this starts from the top.
Yes.
I remember when I was going through micromanaged leader, bullying leader, and all that, and I was telling someone I'm on vacation right now, and I'm not thinking about work. And I remember every time I go and take a time off, Monday morning, 9 a.m., first thing in the morning, she'll book a one-on-one with me. So ask me what I should give a report of last week, and that was just very stressing. So one of the ways, and I also gave an example of my mentor who talked about people complaining, and she's a VP, and I remember we were just having a chat, and one of the things she said she did for her team was on Monday and Friday she had something called focus time for her team, and she blocked their calendar as the VP of that team, blocked everyone's calendar, and no one can book meetings for everyone on that team. And she told all managers, no group meetings are allowed within this time frame. If you want to if you want to have like conversations between yourselves, feel free, but no team meetings. Give them time. We started from the leadership, and she started leading by example. So leaders, my VP, my organization will tell us when we're taking our time off that when I take my time off, I disconnect, I unplug. So please make sure you're doing that. So leaders have to actually say it. We should not assume that people know what to do. They know. It's as easy as bad as I've worked in an organization where the first question I asked was, when do I close? Because it's like there's no, they tell you start time, they don't tell you closing time. Like, when do we close here? And because it wasn't stated, I could see people were working over hours. Where I work right now, it's clearly stated at the beginning of the year. We started this with, how do you want to communicate? What are the boundaries? We had conversations. Which started from our leaders. So leaders have to start that conversation. They have to create that platform where these things are communicated and everyone knows. It's not a hidden secret. I start at 8, I close at 4. We know. If I close by 4, I do not feel guilty. So walking that talk, putting in those boundaries set, you have flex days, encouraging people to take their flex days, take time off. When you feel stressed, giving them those flexible work arrangements. If I feel stressed at 12 o'clock, I can take a short nap and come back and work extra.
Yeah.
So because you trust me to deliver, I will go back to Jumi's points. Stop micromanaging. Trust your employees. Give them that flexibility and trust that they will do what is right.
I love that. And truly, you've said this about twice now. I have worked in an organization where sincerely, if we close for 5 o'clock, you are closing early. It's half day you've done. We start leaving work at 7 o'clock. And these were my early days as a professional. I remember that very well. I've slept in the office twice before. Yeah, right? I have worked with a boss that told me that, are you thinking? I mean, did you look at those kind of psychological abuse that says, did you think about this very well before and so me, just you talking and just bringing out some of those memories. But, I'm going to flip that question to Jimmy, and then we go into some personal dimension now. What are steps what specific steps, in addition to what Tolu said, can organizations put in place to, a psychologically safety environment to create that where employees feel valued and their own mental health can be put in perspective?
So I'll just say that the place of leader not be overemphasized, like Tolu rightly said. But I'll also say a point that I noticed, during COVID, when people had to start working remotely, and most organizations used to it, at least in Nigeria at the time. There was that craze for what are you doing, because of the fact that you don't know what people were doing at home, but results. I'm speaking for this particular people, we're seeing results in terms of numbers, but just the mere fact that they are not on their desk, because before, started work from home, just the point you made in this particular organization, where people even finish their work. For instance, somebody like me, I'm not the type to get to work and just, I'll just face my desk. Of course, when the time comes for me to get up, interact, I do that, but I'm more focused on work while I work, because I close when I need to close, go home, and then face others. But you cannot stand up from your seat because you feel like the organization had a lot of big boomers. They are watching you.
They are living at this time. How dare you? Half day.
Understanding is that the fact that you are sitting down, you are still getting the job done. Whereas
even though you are doing nothing, you may be doing nothing.
That became the culture. People started sitting back, watching movies, or doing other things, or just creating the impression that they are working, and it doesn't translate into productivity. So that really is my point. Leaders need to understand the difference between productivity, and people trying to form productivity. If there's anything like that, focus on productivity and delivering their numbers. Be clear on your expectations.
Fantastic.
Performance. Be clear on your expectations. Let your KPIs very clear. Know what people are expected to deliver per time. And if they are falling short in that angle, of course you can have conversations, but do not focus on how they are doing it or how they are going about it, or whether or not they have to close by 6 o'clock or by 7 o'clock. Saying this, just like you, coach, I remember a particular organization where the MD says he doesn't want people to use staff buses because they would abandon their work and say they are going home.
What a thinking. What a mindset. Oh God.
Where the economy was really fighting hard, and that staff bus would go a long way in helping employees to even be more productive. But you're so concerned about the fact that they will shut down their laptop and everybody will go home, and then the work is going to end there. For me, I'll just say that to leaders, let the focus be on productivity. If you have to get to measure productivity, remember back then when we had to go into remote work during COVID, we had to get some productivity tools to be sure that people are doing what they are supposed to do. Again, trying to micromanage, to put a call, I use in front of your computer, are you doing what you're supposed to do? All of those things, however little or joke they are the things that contributes, they build on them is what eventually leads to burnout and the mental health situation. So for me, focus would be the word.
Fantastic, fantastic. This is just a mix of so many things coming to mind when you think about the various experiences people have and the long-term effect on people. Okay, I'm not sure I can pronounce this name. I'll pronounce it wrongly, but Kuka, that's the last part of the name. My apologies. Kuka is showing a lot of emotions in terms of, I'm sure she's had different experiences when that has impacted mental health in one way or the other. But she said Nigerian companies will never trust you to do this. You even work during leave because the tax is top priority. Yeah, those are organizations
Is
who
a gap.
prioritize. Yes, you have to get it done, and I think like Tolu said, they don't have structures and systems. The expectations are not clear, and that's why you can do that. Temi Tokpe says organizations would preach work-life balance on paper, but wouldn't see you close by 5 p.m. Again, it boils down to what Tolu has been saying. And I see Tolu using the words, it starts from leadership. Tolu is a change professional. And you see, for any change or any culture to happen and happen effectively, there has to be buy-in. There has to be sponsors at the top level. And those are the leadership. When you have leaders, driving this kind of culture, there will be psychological safety. I mean, the example you gave, I remember my boss on Fridays, we shut down. Our calendar is blocked. No meetings. You can do other things. It's blocked. I also remember that there are certain conversations that happens and you feel safe. Some engagement happens. Your wins are celebrated openly. Mistakes are celebrated as a learning opportunity, and you're prioritizing the mental well-being of your employees, rather than just the results. Because at the end of the day, if you like Anadia say, if you kill the keta, the donkey that carries the person, if you kill it, then who else will carry you?
I mean,
Yeah. So there's some points I wrote down here that talks about how organizations can really create a safety workplace. And you guys have you've captured everything. But let me just list it here. It talks about encourage open communication. And Tolu talked about that. That is very important. We must listen to the team. And I think we HR professionals also we play a role there in ensuring that, number one, we are attracting the best leaders, ensuring that our policies and our systems and our structures that are in place is giving that sense of accountability. Like you talked about earlier on, that organizations, it's a KPI thing. You're measuring from those surveys, whatever the survey is saying that is trending low. We need to focus on you. How are you managing your people? Are you on their case? Are they having heart palpitation every time they have to talk to you? And those things are very important. I think fostering inclusivity, excuse me, inclusivity, fostering it is a key. An inclusive culture is something critical for mental safety, psychological safety. When you are not, it's not like they are doing one project. You never hear about it until later. They're not carrying you along, right? You're not giving feedback. You don't feel heard, right? You don't feel like a part of it. Even sometimes, some people do certain things that you're not recognized for your own contribution. Those are terrible bosses. They are taking the credits as if they did it. They can't. Those things lead to an unsafe work environment, and it has negative effect. I think this is something key. But let's narrow down to we as individuals now. How do you prioritize your mental health? What are the specific steps professionals can take? Because at the end of the day, you are 100% irreplaceable at work. I know that as an HR professional. If push comes to shove tomorrow, you fall down and die, or you hit your head, or you are anything,
Continue.
maximum 3 days. Conversation is happening on
That's
how to
even long.
that's even longer. Some organizations are, but the truth is, you're very replaceable. Nobody is indispensable. Yet the data shows that in America over $10 billion is lost annually to mental health related issues, right? Organization productivity drops, right? So I'm bringing it to we as individuals. What are the critical steps we need to take to protect our mental health, or to be strong so that we can be alive for those that love us? you know. So Tolu, you want to hit that?
Yeah, so it brings back memories because the employer before this one. So it brings back some memories. And I would say, what were the steps I did take as a person? You know, micromanager was number one for this manager. And because she started micromanaging my time, I tell you, Mole, 5 o'clock, I close my computer. Normally, I would take my computer home before, which was not normal. I started leaving my computer at home. Once I closed, I don't take it home.
So
So if you call me, I'll tell you that's
you
not
were
with
a
me.
rebel. You were a rebel. It's not all of us that have.
I was very clear
Yeah.
because one of the things I do in every organization I do is that I make my boundaries sets. I think the
Boundaries.
first organization I worked here in Canada taught me that I had an amazing leader, and she tells me, "Toby, you're not a firefighter. That's not your job. To that's you're not. No, she's like, you're not a medical prof. You're not a doctor. It's not as if you don't do this work, the people there will die. Nobody's going to die.
My boss
Like
says
so,
that.
she was a great leader who taught me the importance of boundaries. She would tell me things like, Tolu, nobody stays on their deathbed saying, oh, I wish I worked more. What they are saying is, I wish I spent more time with family. So work is good, but that's not your life. And I guess because I started from that organization, every time I landed in an organization that was toxic, I knew that it was just this was not normal. This was an abnormality.
Okay.
So irrespective of how toxic, I would always ensure that I set my boundaries. One of the
Fantastic.
things I would say is practical is having you know when you start work and know when you close work. I work
Hey.
mostly at home, and most times, what organizations might not know is that when we work at home, we tend to work more than when we work in the
Yeah,
office.
actually, research shows that. Yeah, because you want to prove your point. You want to get things done. You don't want them
You
to feel
save
you are
on
flopping around.
commute time as
Yeah.
well.
Yes, you
So
use it
what
to
I
get
do
things
in that
done.
space is I have a workstation, and I encourage people work on your workstation. Don't be carrying your computer up and down. Put
Ah,
that designated
a
space,
lot of us
and
will
don't
do
wait.
that too.
When
Tolu.
you are there, it's
Yes.
work time. The moment you leave that space, you have left work. Like
Mm.
you said, if even God forbid anything happens, life continues, work continues. So we need to be healthy to continue to work, and we need to be healthy for our family and for ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
having that designated space where you work, don't feel guilty when you take a break. Try and work on yourself. Like
Yeah.
try and work on that personal guilt. Because sometimes we are the ones, because of cultural where we came from, we've gone through abuse that we thought was normal. And we
Yes.
now come here and we think it's normal.
Oh yes.
So we need to not like don't feel guilty. They will not die. They'll be fine. Even if you step away, take breaks.
Yeah.
Take your breaks, take your vacation. You need to refuel so that you can give your organization the best of you. You need to take time to professional development. You need to prioritize your growth, and by prioritizing yourself, your organization will even get the best of you. They'll get more from you. And if you're in a space where you've tried all this and it's not working, I tell you, it's not. Please look out. They do not tie
They,
your umbilical cord to anybody.
that's what Temitope Fijila is saying. It says employees need to know when to walk away from toxic
Yeah,
work environment.
you're, you're not tied. Don't feel guilty. You come first. Another thing I know that I did when I was there was I have a community. But I've
Oh,
mentioned I'm very passionate about networking. I built
okay.
a community, and I had community of people who were encouraging me through the situation. People who were constantly telling me my worth, because there will be times where you are in that space where sometimes you forget your worth. You think that, oh, if I go somewhere else, nobody will take me. I tell you, there are a million companies that would hire you. There are a million companies that would appreciate your boundaries, that will appreciate your mental health,
I
that
love
will prioritize you. There are great cultures out there. It might take time, but you will find them. If you look, you'll find them. So know that whatever situation you are going through, you don't have to be stuck in here.
I
It's
love
okay to find that space that appreciates the value that you bring, because you are indeed valuable and you have a whole lot to offer.
I love
Mm.
amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tolu. Jumi, what
Okay,
can we do as
so
individuals?
I'm just here watching, laughing because
Tolu.
I've experienced this first time. I always have stories.
Yeah.
I went away from an organization
Mhm.
that was beginning when I started to feel that my mental health was being threatened, and I knew that I needed to protect that space because that's where all health flows.
Mm.
For the first thing for me was recognizing that fact, and it was a good thing that we have touched on some of those symptoms, the things that you begin to see, and then you know that it is time, to pay attention. I started to see some of those symptoms, and I, that was a performer, started to my performance started to drop, and it was affecting every other area of my life. I was at home, but I was about work. I knew it was no longer safe for me. And I know that a lot of people are caught in the trap of, if I leave this job without another job, how do I
How would I
not
survive? How
always
would I do?
but I took the plunge because I prioritized myself, and I knew that I could replicate whatever results that I've had in that organization anywhere else. It was only going to be a matter of time. I I prioritized myself. I took the plunge. I didn't have another job that was waiting. It took me another 3 months, but I kept showing up on interviews, brushing up my skills, volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Madam Volunteer.
spoiling myself, reinventing myself, preparing myself for the next employer that was going to appreciate the value that I was going to bring on board. So I stayed there, because most people stay there, they become disgruntled,
Yes.
they are no longer for the organization. At the end of the day, they are even shown the way out. So why not you prioritize yourself first? By taking the plunge. If you have to have a conversation, of course, I had conversations, but it wasn't leading anywhere.
Yes.
But I decided
Yeah.
myself, and
Yeah.
I took the action that was best.
Yeah. There's something I wanted to add that just popped in my head when Jimmy
please,
was talking.
please, yeah.
When we don't walk away and we stay stuck in that toxic, it's almost how they say the abuser become the abused.
Exactly.
You kind of begin to start imbibing that culture.
Exactly.
And unconsciously, you can now start thinking that's life. And when you go to another organization, you will now be that one that is affecting other people's mental health. So you have to be careful so that your subconscious does not begin to think that is normal life and begin to adapt to that bad way of doing living.
Amazing. You guys have, you spit fire this afternoon, because truly the insight you've shared is a critical thing. And one of the things Tolu said I want to emphasize is build. She said, I built my community. Some of us don't know that we're the sum total of the 5 key people around us, our friends, the people we spend time with. And I like the word she said, I built my community. In other words, you can't be passive about it. As we grow up in life, we know, right, that we just don't make friends. We discover our friends. We select specific people that we want to be in our space. We are deliberate and intentional about it. We are aware of our own bias, but we are deliberate, and we learn how to navigate these nuances. And that's very spot on. Whatever phase you are, if you don't have a strong support system, you will fizzle away. You'll find yourself lost. And we need that strong support system to deal with our mental health, to deal with that reality. And very sharp insight. There's something you said, Jimmy, so powerful. I know I have value to offer. I mean, forget whatever you're earning in a particular organization that is toxic and you're still being there. Sometimes it's because you don't know that you can offer more and you can get more. It might take a gap. It might take some little time for that to happen, but keep positioning yourself and keep developing yourself. We can't afford to take our careers lightly. The same way we can't afford to take our mental health lightly, right? And interestingly, these 2 ladies, I'm privy to have some level of relationship with you. I see how you make investments actively. You understand? The Tolu I know 2 years ago is a bit different from the Tolu I know now. The Jimmy I know 6 months ago is different from the Jimmy I know now. And it's sometimes we being intentional about making investments. Sometimes the issue is our issue, because we keep blaming ourselves for everything. We don't know how to put things in perspective.
Exactly.
And sometimes, because some things we've done in the past, if I talk now, is voila. All right. If I leave now, we are over conscious of what people think or say. But we have to get to a point where we take hold of our life and be clear about what is important to us. Our mental health is important too. It's important for us to show up, not just for these organizations, but for those that love us. Every time you're going through those tough mental health issues at work, sometimes the precursor is from home, or sometimes your partner is the one suffering it, right? And that's why it's important for us to identify some of these signs. Every time you are fine, people around you are fine. And sometimes when things are pushing you back from being fine, you need to take hold, identify it. Okay, where's the issue from? Where's my own responsibility here? Where do I need to report better, communicate better, clarify better, draw the boundaries? Let me say this. When you fear built walls, but boundary built healthiness, right? Is fear that will make you build walls. We don't need to build walls. But when we build boundaries, right? We are protecting ourselves and protecting the ones we love, including our job, so that we'll keep showing up. You understand? And we must understand that. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. Tolu is the connector. Tolu is working on. She's having an event coming up very soon. Tolu, I'll be glad to push that event on our platform, let people know, because you really need to meet Tolu. She will connect you like clearly. Tolu, you want to talk about it for just next few seconds?
Yeah.
And then,
So this is called the Connect and Tribe. This is the second edition. The first one was about digitally networking, but this one is happening I think June 2nd, and the purpose is power of mentorship.
yes.
Because I'm here in the US now. I flew here to the US to meet my mentor.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I do
yeah.
not take lightly the power of mentorship, the power of community. So that's what it's focused on, telling us how we can navigate finding a mentor, finding that community, and our role as well as mentees, because in relationship it takes two people. So
Yes.
it's not about just taking from the person, but how it can be mutually beneficial to both parties. So it's on Networking Queen's homepage. So if anyone is interested, please, we would love to have you. There's always a networking session within that space where you get to meet new people. So
Yeah, your network determines your net worth. So
Yeah.
connect to people that know the way, or at least you can navigate the
Follow
way
no
together.
road.
Who follow will know road. It's not a joke, it's a fact, right? It's a fact. And sometimes we have to be active about things like this. Thank you so much for showing up today, Tolu. Thank you for sharing from your expertise with us. And Jimmy, do you have any last thoughts you want to share as we round up today?
Just to, prioritize yourself, know the value you carry,
Mm-hmm.
and just do what is right by you. Don't wait until an organization puts you in a situation where you're now useless to yourself and even useless.
That's a
Know when to pull out, know when to pull in, and you will be fine.
That's a very powerful one. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Kuka, Temitokwe, Kike. Thank you everyone for contributing. The Gafar and Temitokwe. Some leaders are today are products of toxic past experience. That's so true. That's so true. And that's that for us. We need to sometimes question why we're behaving this way. Is it because certain experience that we have? Are there things we need to unlearn and we need to detach from? Because sometimes at the end of the day, some of us are the ones that are toxic ourselves because it has become a part of us and we now think it's normal. So these are important. Yes, power of mentorship. Thank you. Prioritize yourself and know the value you carry. Yes, it's powerful. You guys have been amazing. And you guys, thank you for joining. Every week, we promise to always show up with some very insightful topical issues that has to do with career and life. And that's why we Illuminals are here just to empower. This session is just really about people and about putting systems and processes in place. And just to let you know, one of the things we have delved into, I use the opportunity to say it out there. We are Luminous Consulting. We are full-fledged consulting firm right now. So all of the years of experience we've gathered working with great organizations, global organizations, we're using it to provide HR support and HR consulting to organizations. So please feel free to reach out to us or even refer to us. If you refer, we'll have a conversation and see how that works out. But more importantly, we're here to reshape the world of HR. We're here to add value, and that's what we're committed to. My name remains Imole Ashogbon. You ladies have been amazing, and you
thank
guys
you,
have been
Mama.
contributing. Thank you so much. Bless
Okay,
your
thank you,
heart.
Julie. It's nice meeting you. Hopefully, we'll connect
Yes,
outside this space.
connect. We'll do the connector thing, and
Yes,
all right. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you.
The DM.
Yes, Adebisi, thank you for all your support. You're always showing up. Celebrate you. And Kike, thank you. We see you. All right.
thank
Thank you,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
All
Tammy,
right.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'll connect with you later. Let me end this.